Hello and welcome to the Border Zone project. Today we discuss the very hot situation on the border between Azerbaijan and Armenia, where yesterday on Sunday fire started again. Armenian side states that Azerbaijani side started this fire against Armenia, and the Azerbaijan Ministry of Defense already made a statement that Armenia made a provocation. Today my guest is Foreign Relations Advisor to the President of Azerbaijan, Mr. Hikmet Gadžiev. Mr. Gadžiev, hello.
It's nice to see you.
Yeah, could you please tell me what's going on at the moment and what is your position in regard with who started the fire, who initiated this conflict at the moment?
And actually, since yesterday, Armenian armed forces along the border of two countries, Armenia and Azerbaijan, started by using artillery, shelling the position of Azerbaijani armed forces, as a result of which Azerbaijani soldiers and also officers have been killed and some others have been wounded. It's in a direct provocation by Armenian armed forces to escalate the situation along the border of two countries, and in the meantime deflect the attention from the internal situation of Armenia. And from Azerbaijani perspective, from Azerbaijani side, we always try to de-escalate situation along the border of two countries and to ensure that calmness and also security and safety have been ensured. One of the elements is that, yes.
Could you please tell me how many soldiers died from each side, if you know?
Yeah, from Azerbaijani side, I can attest that yesterday, as a result of this artillery attack of Armenian armed forces, 4 Azerbaijani soldiers have been killed and 5 have been wounded. And still the aggressive actions from the armed force of Armenia still continuing. And Azerbaijani side also took countermeasures and counter-offensive actions to stop such an irresponsible provocations of Armenian armed forces to escalate the situation in the region.
Could you please tell me, Armenian side state that Azerbaijan started this aggression. So what would you suggest to experts, journalists, international community to understand who was the real initiator of this period of aggression? Because Azerbaijan say one thing, Armenia say another thing. Who should we believe? What evidences should we see?
Yeah, but facts are speaking for themselves. First of all, we should start from the real situation on the ground. And there is no logic that Azerbaijan could start such skirmishes along the border between two countries. And Azerbaijan always supported the initiatives aimed at the escalation of the situation on the border of two countries and ensuring the peace and security along the border. And of course, the border between Armenia and Azerbaijan is completely different from the line of contact that exists between armed forces of Armenia and Azerbaijan, which is resulted of Armenia's occupation of Nagorno-Karabakh and 7 adjacent regions of Azerbaijan. And Azerbaijan's armed forces and Armenian armed forces are sitting face to face along the line of contact. But on Armenia-Azerbaijan border, yet another element is that, so that to ensure the escalation, Azerbaijan on a step-by-step basis continues to deploy its state border service, so that to demilitarize the concept of border between two countries. And bigger portion of Azerbaijani-Armenian border along the Tovuz and Kazakh regions are now covered by state border service of Azerbaijan. But on the other side, from Armenian side, what we see, first, further militarization of the border, deployment of the heavy armament, including the artillery. And what is the logic and strict goal from Armenian side for escalation in the situation in the border area? First, Armenia, by doing that, tries to create new source of confrontation in the region, so that to escalate the situation in the region further and to deflect the attention from the Nagorno-Karabakh theater of operation. And also Armenia, by such military adventures, tries to involve other institutions or organizations to the conflict, so that to share the responsibility or to put the responsibility on other countries. That's in general strategy that's sought by Armenian side. In the meantime, internal political conundrum in Armenia. And as everybody sees that current Armenian government sees a lot of challenges and difficulties with regard to their actions. In the meantime, as a result of ill actions of Armenian side, COVID is continuing to spread, and also internal social economic difficulties and challenges. Under such situation, with a policy of Azerbaijanophobia, it's one of the easy target for current Armenian government to present Azerbaijan as a foreign enemy and to deflect public attention and to direct it toward the Armenia-Azerbaijan border area.
But I'm very sorry, let's be honest. We hear like very, very often from our Azerbaijani friends, experts, journalists, and actually we saw people yesterday on the streets asking for a war with Armenia in Baku. And before, in May, in April, in June, we've heard lots of statements from Azerbaijani experts saying that we don't see any other way in dealing with Karabakh conflict but to start a war. So when some military actions are initiated, it's like more clear that maybe Azerbaijani side started something.
We should differentiate here. There is a wider public opinion in Azerbaijan that's also frustrated and disappointed with regard to the non-settlement of Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict. And we should also not forget that we have in Azerbaijan 1 million refugees and IDPs. They have their existential right to return back to their territories. There is a public demand from Azerbaijani society for return of our territories and return of Azerbaijani IDPs to their homes. But Azerbaijani government and in every instances that we see demonstrates responsible policy with regard to the resolution of the conflict based on the negotiations and that's mediated by the OSCE Minsk group co-chairs. But unfortunately, what we see currently, Armenian side tries to undermine the negotiation process, format and substance of the negotiations. From another side, we see confrontations and new provocations along the border of two countries and also targeting Azerbaijani civilians along the border. These are all elements that Armenia tries to pursue to escalate the situation so that to evade its responsibility for the resolution of the conflict. What is in general philosophy of the negotiation process is withdrawal of Armenian troops from the occupied territories of Azerbaijan. In order not to do that, and we see different elements of the provocations by Armenia along the border of two countries and also line of contact. But you are right, there is a public demand from Azerbaijani government, from Azerbaijani society, and you're also right that yesterday we have seen some protests in Azerbaijan and people are saying that there should be some actions by Azerbaijan. But from another side, we see very responsible action by Azerbaijani government to find a solution of this conflict. And we do believe that negotiation potential of the Minsk group format is not exhausted yet, and there is still potential, but we are expecting more responsible actions by Armenia. But facts on the ground, real situation on the ground speaks on the contrary. And yesterday's incident and provocation committed by Armenian armed forces, and particularly using artillery so that to shell Azerbaijani outposts along the border is yet another demonstration of Armenians' intentions, and it's also yet another demonstration of hypocrisy pursued by Armenia. From one side, they say that we would like to the peaceful resolution of the conflict. From another side, they, in a deliberate manner and a vile manner, kill Azerbaijani soldiers, create new source of the confrontation in the region, and trying to hide themselves behind so-called the nice words of the peaceful resolution of the conflict. That's not acceptable. That's not acceptable for Azerbaijani government. That's not acceptable also for Azerbaijani public opinion.
What do you expect from this meeting that was called today, urgent meeting in regard with current conflict? What do you expect from the Kremlin side in this regard?
In general, Russia is a neighbor of Azerbaijan. There is a strategic partnership between Russia and Azerbaijan. And also Russia is one of the co-chairs countries of the OSCE Minsk group. When this incident happened, we have informed co-chair countries through different channels, Azerbaijani foreign ministry channels and some other channels, informed co-chair countries. And we are also expecting that co-chair countries should redouble their efforts for the resolution of the conflict in a very soonest way, and further actions to be taken. In general, we are expecting that Russia and other co-chairs, and seeing the fragility of the situation and also element for further destabilization, should redouble their efforts to find solution of the conflict, and also finding a solution for the key elements of the conflict resolution process. It first of all starts with the withdrawal of Armenian troops from the occupied territories of Azerbaijan. Key is over there. The fundamental cause of the conflict is a fact of occupation that Azerbaijan is suffering more than 20 years. And for that, we are expecting from all co-chair countries and also Russia to redouble their efforts for resolution of the conflict, and also bring Armenia to the constructive negotiation table, so that Armenia can also be engaged in the negotiation process in a responsible manner, and also put in a pressure on Armenian side to stop their provocations. It's also expectation of Azerbaijan from the all international community that condemn such an actions of Armenia, condemn occupation of Armenia. And it's not an acceptable situation that Azerbaijan is suffering for more than now almost 30 years from the fact of occupation.
President Aliyev made a very strong statements in regard with what you just said about Minsk group and actually the status of negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Could you please tell me, with no regard to what's going on now, what would you want to ask, request from Minsk group to do? We understand everything about withdrawing troops and etc., but unfortunately or fortunately, it's not possible at the moment. Armenian side will not do that. So where is some middle decision of this problem for current situation to stop war, to stop killing of people, and to go further with some negotiations?
Yeah. Today we also had a meeting of the Security Council of Azerbaijan chaired by my president, and my president also once again reiterated the fact that Armenians with actions as provocations, I mean the recent actions that they have perpetrated on the border. In the meantime, my president highlighted that from one side, Armenia speaks about peace and negotiations. From another side, Armenia commits such provocations. It's an hypocrisy. That also shows that Armenia is not sincere in the negotiation process. And recently also my president in his public statement touched upon the role of the OSCE Minsk Group co-chairs, and indeed OSCE Minsk Group tries to demonstrate that they're in action, but unfortunately we don't see any practical actions on the ground. What is the expectation from the Minsk Group co-chairs and what they can do now? Really, we have a roadmap for the resolution of the conflict, and everyone should be committed to that. But we see that current administration of Armenia tries to destroy what we have agreed during the last 10 and 15 years. This roadmap is not ideal for Azerbaijan either. But what is the in general strategy and understanding here is a step-by-step resolution of the conflict. Our success on one step can guarantee our step on the next, our actions. But Armenian side evades all responsibility and tries to put additional conditions or tries to bring additional technical elements to the entire negotiation process. But key fundamental issue here, what's the first action? But of course, the first action is the illegal military presence of Armenian armed forces in the occupied territories of Azerbaijan. Let's imagine that in the 21st century, we have a trench war scenario in Europe. One OSCE member country occupies territories of another occupied OSCE country. We have a first of all the scenario that soldiers sitting in the trenches. That is a reason, that's a potential for escalation of the situation at every moment and at every instances. And therefore, this fact of military occupation should be taken out from the context, and then we can continue our follow-up action. Therefore, we are expecting that.
But by the first step, do you mean withdrawing of these so-called 7 regions?
Yes, first step starts from here, and Armenian armed forces should be withdrawn from these territories. That's also in general philosophy and also key component of the negotiation process that we are discussing with the Armenian side, and OSCE Minsk Group co-chairs are also part of this process. But Armenian side now tries to destroy everything, including the format. That's not unacceptable to change the format of the negotiations. Format is existing and we all agreed there. And then substance, and we also agreed on the substance and how we can move forward. But now, ball in the court of Armenian side to make a practical action. In order not to make a practical actions, now we see Armenian side creating different sorts of provocations along the line of contact and also border of 2 countries. Armenia understands very well that they have a core responsibility to ensure withdrawal of the troops. It's also demand of the UN Security Council resolutions, and 4 resolutions demand immediate and unconditional withdrawal of Armenian troops from our occupied territories. Here comes also responsibility of the Minsk Group co-chair countries. Minsk Group co-chair countries, co-chairs in general, are not message carriers only, and they should also fulfill their mandate. And their mandate says that they should fulfill Helsinki Final Act, and also their mandate derives from the UN Security Council resolutions. We saw also 3 countries that they are members of the United Nations Security Council, and they are responsible for the international peace and security. And they also shouldn't allow the fact that in the 21st century, one country continues in a military way to occupy the territory of another country. And therefore, they should put in a political diplomatic pressure on Armenian side to bring Armenia on the negotiation table. And Armenia should finally understand its responsibility. And we should also put an end to the impunity of Armenia with regard to the fact of an occupation and other crimes they have committed in Azerbaijan. But Azerbaijan believes there's a potential of the peaceful resolution of the conflict, but there is a co-responsibility on Armenian side to fulfill.
My last question, I know you're very busy. Could you please tell me, if no actions will be on the table, if no compromise found, is the war still on the table for Azerbaijan? I mean, Karabakh.
Yeah, you know, military confrontation or military escalation is always a possibility, unless Armenian armed forces withdrew from the occupied territories of Azerbaijan. I also tried to describe the situation on the ground. It's in a First World War sort of scenario that soldiers sitting in the trench. At every moment, escalation could happen, and the recent provocation caused by Armenia is a reality on the ground. Azerbaijan still believes that potential for the peaceful resolution of the conflict exists, and sober mind and also constructive attitude needs to be demonstrated from Armenian side, and Armenian leadership also should understand reality, and based on that, they should move forward. Otherwise, all responsibility falls on Armenian side, and particularly political military leadership of Armenia. As every country in the world, Azerbaijan, under the United Nations Charter, Article 51, has an all responsibility to ensure its territorial integrity, sovereignty, and inviolability of its borders, and also security and safety of the nationals.
But ceasefire agreement?
Ceasefire agreement, no one can hide themselves behind a ceasefire arrangement. I would like to remind what was written in ceasefire arrangements when it was done in 1994. In general, idea of the ceasefire arrangement was that to ensure that military actions are stopped, we will switch to the resolution of the conflict and take immediate action. There was also timetable for withdrawal of Armenian troops that was developed that time by Minsk group co-chairs. But unfortunately, once again, we see that Armenian side misused ceasefire arrangement so that to continue the occupation, annexation of Azerbaijani territories, and also to consolidate and maintain status quo of occupation. And current status quo based on occupation is not unacceptable. It's not acceptable for Azerbaijan. It shouldn't be acceptable for the international community. In the 21st century, we cannot accommodate or admit the fact of changing internationally recognized borders of the state by use of force. Therefore, with so-called ceasefire arrangements is a cliche or facade for Armenian side to hide them behind and continue annexation of Azerbaijani territories. Yet another important fact I just wanted to highlight here, illegal activities of Armenians occupied territories of Azerbaijan. Contrary to the international humanitarian law, Armenia now conducts notorious illegal settlement in the occupied territories of Azerbaijan. Once again shows that Armenia occupied these territories and their true intention is a continuation of its occupation and status quo based on the occupation.
Thanks a lot for this interview. Thanks a lot for your time. And all I can say is to wish peace and security to South Caucasus region, Azerbaijan and Armenia and Georgia, of course.
It's my wish as well. I would also like to highlight that Armenian government and leadership will also learn from the examples of Georgia and Azerbaijan partnership and cooperation in the region, as they can also benefit from such a cooperation.
I hope we'll talk to you about that when the situation will be a bit more calm. Thanks a lot for the interview.
Thank you.
It was a Border Zone project. Today we talked about the conflict situation on the border between Azerbaijan and Armenia, and my guest was Foreign Affairs Advisor of the President of Azerbaijan, Mr. Hikmet Gadžiev. Thank you. Goodbye.